Some outstanding minds and voices are featured on this panel, and it is my honor to introduce the people that we'll be hearing from in the next 45 minutes or so. John Dilworth, the Superintendent of East Baton Rouge Parish Schools. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent, for being here. Brian Dixon, the Executive Director of the Mentorship Academy. Nancy Roberts, the Executive Director of the Louisiana Resource Center for Educators. Craig Freeman of the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board. And Linda Johnson of the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. And they will respond to a question or two from me, and then if you have some questions or insights, observations that you'd like to share or get feedback from the panel, then that's what they're here for. And we'll start with the Superintendent Dilworth. And can you give us the Cliff Notes version of what your assessment is of the state of education here in Baton Rouge?
Gladly. Coming back to Louisiana a couple of years ago after not being in K-12 for about 7 years, has kind of been a cultural shock, to be honest. To come back and see the number of students that have been retained, a lot of it due to exit exams, I think, at 4th and 8th grade, and a lot of it having to do with not just having quality instruction and leadership, has been kind of a shock. The budget cuts is another issue that's been pretty disappointing. When I came here, I thought I had $70 million to work with. In fact, in the first 2 years, I've had to cut $50 million from the budget. So it's been invigorating because of the number of people in the community that really support schools in a meaningful way, and I really mean that. But some of the things that's been kind of shocking to me.
Brian Dixon.
I share the superintendent's, I think, surprise and perspective in many ways. I moved here from San Diego, California a year and a half ago. And what I've found is that parents in Baton Rouge are passionate about educational choices for their children, passionate about having their children succeed. But it's a tough situation we have here in Southern Louisiana, no doubt about it. When they looked at, you saw the interactive map that they had during the documentary. Did you notice the statistics of reading proficiency? Did you see where Louisiana was? Anybody remember? 19%. So we're a first-year school, 9th grade. Our kids are coming to us and they're not ready for 9th grade. And they're definitely not ready for college. And so we have a lot of work to do. There have been a lot of lessons we've learned in this first year. I'm like the superintendent said, I'm invigorated as well. I think, you know, it starts with the parents and it starts with good teachers. And by working together and providing educational choices for kids, I think it's a long journey, but I think we're going to get there. It's just going to take some time.
Hey, I work with teachers. The Louisiana Resource Center for Educators has traditionally been a teacher training organization, and we have been approved for a Type 1 charter. I just wanted to show you what a charter application looks like for those of you who brave souls think you want to get into this. I'll be glad to talk to you. The state of education in South Louisiana today, I have really come to the conclusion that there's no lack of will. That's not the problem. We are saddled with a lot of old laws and rules, and I'm gonna put my reputation on the line right now and say that I think just because you teach 3 years shouldn't mean you should teach 27 years. Okay, you really don't. You know, I can't think of another profession that gives people lifetime and it's such an important job. And then secondly, I think that when teacher retirement charges 23% of the revenue to pay retirement costs on a defined benefit, and very little of that money does not see anything in the classroom, any computers for the kids, doesn't those are dollars that I understand we're obligated to the people who got into the system a long time ago. But I think what we're going to have to do is grandfather in the people that are in defined benefits, and then we have to start new because with people in a more realistic retirement package. So those are the things that I think that those are some of the things I think they're holding us back in the way we can set up schools and get more resources down into the classroom.
Thank you.
Get out of here alive.
I represent the district that includes the Manship Theater, and I guess I'm a little more of an optimist. I send my 4 children to East Baton Rouge Parish Schools. I'm lucky in that I've got Baton Rouge High and McKinley High, which are fantastic schools. I've got McKinley Middle, which is a fantastic school, and I've got a number of amazing elementary schools that do all kinds of incredible things. And so if you haven't had a chance to go into Flame or South Boulevard and see 6-year-olds almost fluent in French or Spanish, then come with me. You're more than welcome to come. They have a little morning exercise thing in the mornings that will get you fired up. And so I think I came into the election thinking that schools are bad. I don't think that we are where we want to be, but I think that we are on the path to getting there, and that it takes the whole community, not just the parents that are in the schools, but the whole community to kind of help us with that. And so that's the optimism that I have going into things.
Thank you. I'm Linda Johnson. I'm the elected board member for the State Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. I've been there since 1999. But I'm more like the child in the film who said, I want more for my children. I am more like that child. First of all, I'm not a critic of public education, so I'm not going to just denounce it. I'm not going to say it's all bad. Am I going to say that there are things that can be improved? Absolutely. Am I going to take responsibility for some of the things that have been done that I think are wrong? Yes, I am. Do I think it is my fault? Of course it's my fault, but it's everybody's fault who's in this room. We have not paid enough attention to the education of our children. What I would like to see, and I have to admit, listening to the school board member here, there are some good schools in EBR, and yes, they have waiting lists. How do I know this? Because for some unknown reason, people call me in Plaquemine trying to get in schools in EBR. So I know they have waiting lists. So I think to talk about how to change system, we all have to be willing to do our part. Because it is not just for the 2 children I'm raising, and I am raising 2, one in the 7th grade in a public school, and one in kindergarten at the Early Learning Center. So yes, I'm raising children, and they will be public school children. So it is in my best interest to make sure that these schools provide what I want for my children. And if I want it for my children, believe me, I want it for Bebe's children too.
Linda, if you could hold on to the microphone, we'll start with you and then come this way on the second question. But what are some innovative models that are being utilized in Baton Rouge that are effective and worthy of a closer look?
I think the EBR system did something that I support. A year or so ago, Superintendent, I believe it was a year or so ago, you all endorsed 2 Type 1 charter schools. Well, I think to have a relationship with the school system under a charter agreement is a positive thing. I also think for the school system to, and by the way, Nancy, they're doing the same thing with the Career Academy. So, you know, that to me is the way that you involve people. First, you don't try to tear us apart. You kind of bring us together and say, how can we work through things that would be good for the children? And so I compliment EBR for having done that, because that's what they've done in those 3 instances. I think it's 2 charters and Nancy's charter that's... And those 2 are... Yeah, I know it is. And I'm very pleased with it, and I also understand it's Sister Judith. Yes. Yes, and so I know what they've done. I've talked to all these people. This is the way you work with people. You don't work trying to say, you have a good idea, but take it someplace else. You work by saying, bring your good idea to us and let us see how we can get the most out of it.
one thing that I guess to add is that I think that in EBR, there's a desire for every person to be special, and you don't want to go to the regular school, you want to go to the special school, and so it's hard as a system to try and figure out what that is. But I mean, you know, not to talk about South Boulevard or Flame too much, but Flame is an amazing place. My children's school, which is a mile away from my home, Baton Rouge Center for the Visual and Performing Arts, I didn't think that my kids would learn math by doing a play, but they did the lighting and they ran the circuitry for the play, and so when fourth graders produce an opera and they also get a chance to learn math and science in the opera, I think that's a wonderful thing. I think Forest Heights is also one that does a similar program that tries to encourage the arts. I think we need to do more to try and make sure that we can have a special place where children feel that they're getting some different kinds of lessons that may be a better thing for us.
One of the things that I want to compliment Superintendent Dilworth on is that you don't hear from his office that the kids are poor. And I just want to share, or that they come from bad families. And if we say that enough, then they're going to believe that they can't do something because they come from a bad family. And just in my own experience, you know, I was number 6 out of 8 kids. I was raised by an alcoholic father. We didn't have a lot. But no one ever said that you can't perform in school. And I think that the more we just can't fall into that trap. And I think that the leadership at EBR has, and I want to compliment the school board too, the current school board has not fallen into that. So anyway, yeah, and the fact that we're a type 1 and we've been working cooperatively with the leadership at EBR is pretty amazing, you know. So I want to thank them. And you know, I told somebody that in the movie Bull Durham, they say you approach the game with fear and arrogance. Well, I'm approaching this opening of this charter school with fear and arrogance. I mean, I'm telling you.
Jim had asked about innovative models or models that are working. So our 2 schools, we have Mentorship Academy of the Digital Arts and Mentorship Academy of Science and Technology, and there's really 3 goals of both of those schools. The first one is to be a student-centered learning place, and that's not something that I've really seen as much as I'd like to see as I travel the country and speak at conferences and look at other schools. To be a student-centered learning place means you put the children first, and also you know, there is major student disengagement in a lot of schools today. I don't know if you've seen that if you've visited schools, but in order for students to graduate from school, they need to attend school, and I think in order for them to be really engaged in the school that they're at, they need to know that the teachers love them and the teachers are there for them, and kids know that. Kids pick that up right away. I hate when we have to have a substitute teacher because that says to the kids that something else is more important than you today. And even if it's an illness or something like that, I understand there are circumstances that you can't prevent, but to have a dedicated teacher that's there every day, getting there early, staying there late, really says something to students. Something else that we're doing as a school is we are really looking at what is the future, what is the goal of education, because it's no longer that factory model. It's really not even getting kids into college, because so many kids that go to college don't have jobs after leaving college. And we had a really interesting conversation in one of the breakout sessions, and the gentleman talked about how the future is on micro-enterprise or microeconomics, where it's really about being an entrepreneur or being a self-starter. And with technology now, it's really about being flexible. You know, the future of education is flexible. So we as a school are trying to look at what are the needs in the community and how can we better meet the needs of the community. One way we're doing that, you know, we bought the old Regions Bank building right downtown. And we actually wrote a grant with the Rotary Club, and we are launching a school-based enterprise, which is almost like a convenience store, a student-run store, to teach our kids business skills. All of our students take civics and free enterprise in 9th grade, and we want to give them hands-on experience of learning what it is to be in customer service, learning what it is to be doing marketing, using those math skills, those Algebra 1 skills that really just are way out here for them, and making them tangible and practical. And we think that when kids are engaged and kids enjoy what they're doing, they're going to come to school, and we're going to help to minimize that dropout rate and bring that down and get them ready for college.
I won't say what's innovative. Let me tell you what we've done in the last couple of years that I think will help us. And let me also say this. When I answer that first question, I think about the least among the least. I think about the children that have been left behind, and I will never be happy until we're not leaving any behind. Innovations. They're not innovation, but they're things that are needed. I spoke of the group of children who were 2 or more grades behind. Well, most people tend to think about that only when they become in the 6th and 7th grade, and then we stamp them with overage that I hate to use. I say children that need a higher challenge. But why do we persist and let them go through elementary school and fail 2 or 3 times without offering assistance? Last year, I'm proud to say that we took children and offered for the first time an elementary summer school for promotion. These were children that needed extended time, who, if 60 was passing, had about a 57%, and we knew that with continued instruction that we didn't have to retain them and devalue them, but we could spend the extra time to work with them and therefore eliminate this problem that we call overage at grade 6 and 7. We will expand that this year. Sitting next to me, and Ms. Johnson mentioned that, I thought, and our board thankfully agreed, that having these 2 new high schools would be a great opportunity for our students and our parents because they were unique. With the same token, with Mrs. Roberts, our Board of Education passed this year for a career education center. Now, that's not innovative, but we don't have one here. And children need to be able to graduate from schools. They need career exploration. They need to find out in school what they don't want to do as well as what they want to do. Having been a vice president of a university, I understand that children that enter college, there's a retention rate that many of them don't return for their sophomore year for all kind of reasons. Talking with the business community, we're hiring people from other states, particularly Houston, in areas that we should be training them in. So I think something not innovative but needed is that we have a career education center that we develop. The other thing that's really not innovative, but it takes collaboration. I'm proud of our relationship with our mayor and our district attorney when it comes to our truancy initiative. It did exactly what I thought it would do this year. It raised our average daily attendance, and some parents were mad because we had early warning workshops and we worked through some issues, but our average daily attendance is up. But the other thing it did is create some problems in our schools. Because it's one thing when making a child come to school because of punitive reasons. It's another thing having a child come back to school with a plan that's developed, that you've met with parents, you've done an assessment, and you know what the needs of the family are, you know what the needs of the children are, and having that kind of assessment to have a reentry plan to go back to school when you're truant and not just be made to go. I'm thankful that we're close right now to signing the agreement for the old Louisiana School for the Visually Impaired. And I thank the mayor and I thank the district attorney and our school board, because what will happen now is we're going to have most of the social agencies in our city located in one place. We're going to have our child welfare and attendance office at that place. So for families that are having difficulties and need their needs met, it's on the bus line. They can come to one place instead of being referred from the school board to another agency. And what we really have to do, and it's going to make a difference in our school district and in our city, is that we have to address the needs of families. We have to address the true needs of children and families. And then we have to engage these children back in school. I'm proud of that. The other thing that I hope will develop with the Career Education Center is I hope it just doesn't meet the needs of high school students, because we have a lot of young parents who dropped out of school, and I envision that being a place that parents can go to after 5 and learn a job skill, because I am convinced that when parents are educated and they can have a job and they can feel good about themselves, they can be a better parent to our children. So those are some of the things, sir.
I'll ask another question, and then if anyone in the audience has a question, just come forward and I'll come down and meet you, and we'll go one more round and see what happens. But you're welcome to pose a question if you would like. Now, Nancy, you gave an inspirational story of how you overcame some obstacles as a child, and Superintendent Dilworth has talked about how there are special challenges in this community based on the fact that we have a city in which 80% of the children in the East Baton Rouge Parish school system are below the federal poverty level, what kind of an obstacle does that create, and how can that be overcome for the child who is in school? Superintendent?
I won't call it an obstacle. I'll call it an opportunity. I think it's our opportunity, as I say to our teachers and our principals and our central office staff every day. I think they said it well in the movie. You know, we have the ability as educators to take a child who may have a flame that's just barely lit, and we can turn it into a huge fire where they have a love for learning, or we can blow that flame out and make them feel like nothing. And the more times it's blown out, the harder it is to light. I met and District Attorney Hiller Moore, I've been meeting with focus groups of students, and there are some issues. We met with a group at Valley Park a week or so ago. He and I, with Chris Trohan, that was sitting in the corner just taking some notes. And children will talk to you when their teacher's not around, they really don't know you, they will really open up to you. We wanted to talk to those children about when they don't feel safe, how we can make schools safer, how they feel safe at home, what kind of things they run into. You know, they didn't mention anything about not feeling safe at school. And we wanted to make sure that they felt safe during the summer. And they told us things like, we need more street lights because people might shoot at us anytime. They said that everybody has a gun or has access to a gun. Some of them think that education is not for them and it may be wasted. They wanted more police presence. Some of them wanted summer jobs. When we polled them about how many had fathers in their home, there were 2 people that raised their hand out of about 30 students. And then they went on to describe you know, the kinds of relationship they want. So it's not an obstacle. It's kind of up to us, and I don't put everything on the school shoulders, because when you've got a parents or extended family that's engaged in their children's education, it sure makes it easier. But we serve many, and their plight is just like the ones we met last week, that the first smiling face they see may be that teacher or that secretary or the bus driver. And we just have to work more and create more of an environment where school can be fun, where school can be challenging for them, and where school can be the kind of environment that they know, that every child knows they're loved and they're going to be supported. And the other thing I'm so proud of, you know, this truancy initiative, somebody told me this, he said, you know, the reason you had an increase in some of the incidents at school is because all the so-called bad kids are being forced back to the school. Well, we will solve that problem. We just need them in school. But we have to stop putting this glass ceiling on kids based on past behavior and based on socioeconomic condition. And that takes every adult, not just in the school system. I'm proud to say the faith-based community, and a lot of people are stepping up. But that's the obstacles we have, and it's not just a school matter, it's a community matter.
Our job as educators is to open the ceiling and set the floor, to open opportunities to kids and say, look at all the amazing things that you could do, but here's at least the minimum standard. And what I found and what our teachers have found is that when you open the ceiling, a lot of students don't know what to do with that, and they're lacking the models. Many of our students, when you ask them, well, what do you want to do for a living? You know, what do you want to do after high school? What do you want to do after college? It's either I'm going to be a ball player, I'm going to be a rapper, or I'm going to work, you know, an hourly job. And you start talking about a professional career where you're paid for what you know, not for the time you put into it. And that's a really foreign concept for a lot of our students. And so we named our school. We went through multiple names working together with the district. We settled on Mentorship Academy because we believe every student needs a mentor. And we bring mentors in every Wednesday for a community meeting, and they are professionals in the field from Baton Rouge that can share with kids, I'm just like you. I went to a public school in Baton Rouge, and look at what I'm doing now. Attorneys, doctors, you know, business owners, entrepreneurs. And for us to show kids at 9th grade that education matters. I think a lot of our kids don't see that, and for them to see where it could lead is a really important first step.
One of the things that I've seen is the effect of the dramatic effect of a great principal, and the principal of the school is just, I don't know, it's the silver bullet. Okay, I don't know if you. I mean, I really believe that, and I think we really we ought to put more emphasis into these folks. We need to give them more support. We need to provide the kind of training and support, almost like if you were to set up, and then this is, I know I'm going to maybe, if you were to set up a branch of a bank, or if you were to set up a franchise for a McDonald's or something, those people have a lot of support and a lot of training and and I think too often, you know, we kind of, the principal of a school is sort of like, they get the job, and then they feel like there's a lot of regulatory things they end up fooling with, and they're not instructional leaders. So I would really like to see us put more time and energy into supporting great principals, and then also, you know, you have to remove people sometimes that aren't getting the job done.
And for me, you know, I guess I'm biased because I still have little kids. My youngest are 4 and my oldest is 9. And I think about a school right down the street, Polk Elementary. And so you talk about how to improve education for kids that might be under the poverty level. They've got hard-working parents that need to drop off their kids so they can get to work. And so at 7:30, you start to see kids that are getting, you know, heading to school, but the school doesn't open until 8. And so I'd love to see some early care to help kids with some educational opportunities. They walk home. And so I know a little girl from campaigning, a little girl and her 2 little brothers that cross Washington Avenue, which is a pretty busy street. There's no extended care for the kids at Polk. And so I have 4 kids. I know how hard it is to get through 4 sets of homework between 6 and 7:30 when we try and clean them up and put them in bed. And I'm really thankful at our school that we have a program where teachers can help with homework so that when the kids come home, I can help them, but a lot of the homework is done. And so I would love to have more opportunities. You know, I know we can't ask teachers to work from Ken till can't, but I would love to have more opportunities for kids to stay around an educational environment and maybe add some enrichment, add some sports or something like that so they would get a chance to do that as well. But I think those are the kinds of things that will help us move kids that are, that have hard-working parents that just don't have the time to help day and night, help them achieve the way that we want them to achieve.